So when you're deciding on your speech topic, you need to, of course, start with your general purpose. Am I trying to inform, persuade, or entertain? And that will certainly be determined for you by the occasion that you've been asked to speak. So you know if you're going to be speaking at a graduation or a funeral or a wedding, you are probably going to be doing an epidictic or a ceremonial type of speaking presentation. If you are a salesperson, chances are your presentation will have some persuasion in it. If you are, again, obviously being asked to speak about something that you have expertise, chances are it's an informative speech, but again, it can have persuasive elements as well. Even in an informative speech, you are always persuading the audience that what you are speaking about is of value to them, so there's always persuasion there. And there's always persuasion in that you are persuading the audience that you are the person who should be providing this information, that you have expertise, you have competence, you have character, and you have goodwill. So there's always persuasion in any type of speech, but certainly in a persuasive speech, the content itself is persuasive. So the general purpose, the first thing you must do in the invention process is figure out what's my general purpose, but more importantly, what is my specific purpose? And your specific purpose, as well as your general purpose, should be guided by the occasion, but also by the audience. And this is what we mean when we talk about being an audience-centered speaker. Audiences are always asking, what's in it for me? Why should I listen to you? And to the extent to which you understand who they are, where they're coming from, what they value, what they believe, what they know, the more you will be able to inform or persuade them. So knowing your audience is so important to being a successful public speaker. In fact, it's probably the most important thing, is being an audience-centered speaker where you have some information on your audience. We'll do a separate discussion where we'll talk about how you do an audience analysis. But again, when you are deciding on the purpose for your speech, the specific purpose in this invention process, you need to say, who is this audience? What do they know? What do they believe? And then my specific purpose would be, what do I want my audience to know or do or believe as a result of my speech? So in the case of an informative speech, what do I want my audience to know as a result of my speech? Persuasive speech, what do I want them to do in the case that there's an action involved, or believe in the case that you're trying to persuade their belief or attitude. So what do I want my audience to know, believe, or do as a result of my speech? That's the question you have to ask, and then you need to obviously craft a thesis statement, which is, again, the specific purpose of your speech. The disposition process, the invention process, of course, is that initial phase of inquiry when you're thinking through your topic, the general topic, the specific topic. What do I know about my audience? How will I be focusing this topic for this particular audience? But the disposition process is how you then construct that material in the introduction, the body, and the conclusion of your speech. And of course, all speeches have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. Even if it's a 1-minute impromptu speech where you're asked to jump up to your feet and say something, you should still have 3 parts to that speech. So the same for every speech, an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. So that's your general structure. But of course, your more specific structure will depend again on the topic, on the occasion, and most importantly, on the audience. There's lots of different ways to structure your speech. We'll talk about different structuring patterns, and certainly certain structuring patterns work better for informative speeches, and others work better for persuasive speeches. But we'll be talking about things like cause and effect structure, or chronological structure, or topically organized speech, where you go from topic to topic to topic. Point, counterpoint is another structure that you can use. In persuasive speaking, we'll learn what's called the Monroe's motivated sequence. So there's lots of different structuring patterns that you can use, but certainly in the second phase, when you've got your topic selected and you've started to do your research, then you start to think about how will you most effectively structure this material to inform or persuade or entertain, again, depending upon the general purpose, this particular audience. The third canon of rhetoric is style, and that has to do with your language choices. We'll spend a whole day or two talking about language and how to use language effectively, to use language that's visual. We'll talk about qualities such as alliteration and other kind of qualities of how assonance and dissonance, how words sound together, couplings and triplets of phrases. And this will become particularly important in your manuscript presentation where, again, your words are of the utmost importance and choosing them carefully will be important. So using words that are that capture the essence of what you want to say, words that are usually painting a picture, words that are easy to pronounce. We'll talk about sentence length in terms of, for example, in public speaking, our sentences tend to be much shorter than they would be if you were writing a paper. So a colloquial style of language choice. So we'll talk about lots of the different elements of actually crafting your language. Now again, in an extemporaneous speech, you will not be writing out your particular speech word for word, but you still will know the main ideas, and if you're going to be using a visualization, telling a story, using a colorful quote, you will be talking about specific language choices. So your style is the third canon of rhetoric. And the fourth canon is delivery, and we'll be spending, again, a couple sessions just talking about all the qualities of effective delivery. And again, although there may be some qualities that I feel generalize for all American audiences, there may be some differences in your style depending upon, again, your audience and the occasion. So obviously you'd be much more upbeat, smiling, laughing, maybe joking if you were obviously giving a ceremonial speech at a wedding or a graduation. Although certainly there can be a place for humor in a funeral oration, but chances are there'd be a lot more of a somber tone and maybe a more subdued style of delivery in a funeral oration. But again, that would depend also on the culture of the audience. So if you're in a Black Baptist church, even funeral orations are full of lots of energy and very upbeat and very celebratory and participatory. So again, your style of delivery will be impacted by your audience and by the occasion and by the content of your speech. So just to say a couple things about, again, the whole process of crafting an effective speech, just the way you would do for a paper, although maybe with paying even greater attention to your audience, you move from a general topic to doing research that will help you narrow your topic as you develop a more specific topic, which you can state in the form of a very specific thesis, just the way you would if you were writing a paper. And you come up with a structuring pattern, and you probably gather do more research, gather more evidence, start to flesh out, having an outline from which you work, and then of course you start to flesh out that outline with the stories, with the statistics, with the points you want to argue in the case of a persuasive speech. And then you get down even to the level of word choice if you're going to be doing a manuscript presentation. And of course, you practice, practice, practice. Again, we talked already, I think, about stage fright. One of the things that makes speakers nervous is if they're not well prepared. And well prepared means doing your homework on your audience and also having done the research on your topic and having practiced the speech many times, particularly if it's a very important speech, certainly one that's going to be graded, and having an audience of friendly faces with whom you can practice. And if possible, even practicing in the room where you'll be delivering the speech, practicing for sure with your technology, because Murphy's Law is anything that can go wrong with the technology, of course, will go wrong on the day that you actually have to use it. So being well versed with the use of your technology, even to the point of if you can have practice with the microphone in terms of the room tone and how loudly you can speak and how, the type of miking that will be being done. You speak differently with a lavalier than you do possibly with a podium mic than you do with a handheld mic. Certainly those change the nature of your delivery. So even all the things about practicing with your technology are important as well. This was just a general overview of the whole speech process and the four canons that are still central to us today: invention, disposition, style, and delivery, because again, the fifth canon of memory is not as important for us as contemporary public speakers. And just a quick overview of how all of these four canons of rhetoric are shaped by the audience and by the occasion and by the content, and the importance really of being audience-centered in all four of those steps of the process. Because if you don't think about your audience, you don't reach people where they live, you cannot inform them, entertain them, or persuade them. So thinking about the audience in every step of the way.